to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice or roll call? Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
And Commissioner Walton?
Yes.
Okay. Notice? Notice of the meeting was given in the following manner. Notice of the meeting was transmitted to the Home News Tribune. Notice of the meeting and a copy of the agenda were filed with the clerk of the City of New Brunswick on September 18, 2015. And said notice of the meeting and a copy of the agenda were promptly posted on the announcer board in the lobby of City Hall at least 48 hours prior to the convening of this meeting. You can do whatever, it's your pleasure. You can do minutes, you can do the election stuff that you need to do. Okay.
Yeah, I think based on our bylaws, there is a vacancy of the board chairperson or vice chairperson. At the next board meeting.
Yep.
Yes.
Walden, as chairperson.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is to fill the gap between now and the term of the election.
Correct. This is to fill the unexpired term of the prior chairperson. Are there any other nominations for chairperson? Not hearing any, we will then close the nominations for chairperson and put the vote to the full board.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
Commissioner Walton?
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Second time, Okay, before we start, I just want to welcome Mr.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you
Yes.
actually have now vacated the vice chair position,
Yes.
so you need to fill the vice chair position with a person who could be any member of the board who isn't a serving officer, which would be either yourself as chair now, or Commissioner Jones, who is the second vice chair. So it could be any other commissioner.
We have to open the floor then for nominations for the position of first vice chair.
I would love to have nominate Dale Caldwell as vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any further nominations for the position of first vice chair? Hearing none, then we will put the vote to the full board.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And that's new.
I'm not used to it yet.
Right.
Okay?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Commissioner.
Phil?
No,
All right.
now you're on minutes.
Yeah. Last month's meeting from July. July 27th.
So it should be the regular, I'm sorry, the annual meeting and then the regular.
Okay.
We need a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
If commissioners were not present at the last
Yeah.
meeting, they are unfortunately unable to be asked to approve these minutes.
Yeah.
So given that we have 4 commissioners tonight, we'll need to carry approval of the minutes to our next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so table vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you vote the table?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you need a motion to table and then
Motion
second?
to table.
So moved.
Who seconded?
No, second.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, motion tables. Okay. So, you want to go with the regular resolutions?
Yeah. You want to go first if you want? Yeah. We'll go to resolution 2.
So read the resolution 41.
Yeah.
Resolution number 41 is Actors Redevelopment Authority, resolution authorizing issuance of a certificate of completion for a mixed-use residential project, The George, on Block 19, lots 11, 12, and 13 in Downtown Development District redevelopment. You need a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Carr. Good evening and congratulations to all the new officers. Yvonne Marcuse, Special Redevelopment Council for the Authority. This is a motion requested by Penrose Development to issue a certificate of completion for their project, which was formerly known as the Arts Building and is now known as the George, a rental building on block 119, which is in the downtown development district redevelopment area.
Where is it located for the new person?
George Street
Yeah.
and.
New Street.
Is it New Street?
Correct.
Across the-
Corner of George and New.
Okay.
And it has been a project that we've been living with for quite a while. There was a little bit of a delay in them asking us for a certificate of completion, but as you were probably all aware from seeing that building in operation for a while now, it has been completed, and we have received and reviewed the certificate of occupancy issued by the city for the 104 apartment units. There is only one requirement of the redevelopment agreement that has not been met, and it will be met before this certificate is actually issued. And that is the condition to, for the redeveloper to pay all the costs that are assigned to the redeveloper under the redevelopment agreement. There are some outstanding expenses that they have to pay. They're aware of this, and I don't expect there to be any problem. So we are just approving the certificate tonight, and it will be signed and issued as soon as that condition is met. There are a few changes in the actual resolution.
You have the final version in front of you.
You do have the final.
Fine, yeah, there is a.
There are some changes since the one that you first received when the package went out. They mainly relate to the description of the project and the property that it sits on. I had to work with that developer during the last week to get the facts straight on that, but all the changes that are necessary have been made, and the developer has reviewed this for accuracy, so we know that it covers the right property and the right units. This is very routine, but we don't issue these certificates automatically. And the development agreement requires that the developer come to us and ask for it when they say the project is finished. At that point, we review what they've done and get the certificates of occupancy, and if all is in order, then we issue the certificate. But they didn't ask for it until now, so we haven't issued it until now. Are there any questions?
Roll call. You have a motion, second, roll call. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
All right, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, go back to
Regular
36.
Sure. Resolution number 36 is a resolution authorizing and approving the payment of bills for the months of July and August 2015.
Motion.
So move.
Yeah, you just want to go over that for the.
Sure. These are the, because we did not have an August meeting, these are the regular bills. 2 months, correct. For 2 months, you typically see these for 1 month in a regular meeting. August is the only month that we typically do not have a meeting, or if we don't have a quorum and we miss a meeting, then you would see 2 months of bills. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Resolution 37 is a resolution approving and adopting the revised 5-year agency plan for New Brunswick Housing Authority and the 1-year agency plan and CFD budget revisions. Need a motion and a second.
Move.
I'll move it.
Second. Can you go over the 5-year plan?
Sure, so the authority is required to do a 5-year plan and an annual plan. So every 5 years, the 5-year plan is revised and updated, and every year, the annual and 5-year plan is done every year for the year going forward. We typically adopt these as part of our annual tasks. However, because there were some changes in the resident assistant demonstration program, we're required to do some revisions to the plan. Whenever you do substantial revision, you go off for a 45-day review period, for public comments. That has concluded, and then we come back to the board for the revision. So we're now back to the board for this revision.
Now, can you go through the process, how we do how we do the 5-year plan?
Sure. So the annual 5-year plan is a structured HUD format, and it talks about the capital needs and capital improvements to the different properties. We're required to do a capital needs assessment, which goes around and talks about areas of the property that look ahead for 20 years that need to be capitalized. And that could include anything from roofs to systems to major systems, parking areas, those types of things. So that plan is then taken and basically merged into a 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is then updated and revised every 5 years. And the annual plan includes the capital fund budgets every year that we're given in order to do the capital improvements to our properties and operations. So every year you will see sort of capital fund budgets and plans as part of the annual plan. And every year you'll see an annual 5-year plan, but the 5-year plan won't typically be revised until the 5-year is all the way through.
Each year should take care of one of the
Correct.
parts of the 5-year.
Correct, and then there are changes in the annual process as it goes, and if there is a substantial change or HUD issues a requirement for a change in the 5-year plan, then you have to go out and start the process all over again.
5 years.
Correct.
And then every 5 years, the board members participate in review over the 5 years.
Yeah, correct.
We spend a day, I think, sometimes.
Correct, we usually do a public session day here every 5 years to go over and talk about the annual plans, the capital needs assessments, and those types of things. And then basically the plan is developed through the HUD format, and it's then documented into the format. Then after the plan is constructed, then you have to go out for a 45-day review period, which we then go out to review and open for public comment. Then it comes back to you for consideration and adoption. Ready? Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Resolution number 38 is a resolution approving the award of contract for building ventilation upgrade and security lighting to Light Ton Industries through MRESC state-approved co-op number 65, MCESCCPS. Sorry, that's a lot of stuff. Want a motion and a second?
A motion, I'll move it.
Second.
These are pretty standard words that I notice up through this here. So this is something like MCES comes up a lot, I can get.
Yeah, so we're
Standards.
part of a Middlesex regional co-op that allows us to utilize the services of the co-op that are publicly bid. Those services are already bid, and they're set in the co-op members to have access to. Whenever we have needs, so in this case, we're in the co-op and look and see what their bid amounts were. And then,
List.
well, yeah, it's a little more than that. But it's an actual bid. So when they're responding to that co-op, they're actually bidding and scoring against the co-op. This way we're able to utilize it. The state also uses a program called their GSA program. So we typically use that for vehicles and other types of things, but this is for services, and it's part of a regional component that's specific to Middlesex.
So those are two things you'll see a lot.
We use them for a number of other services. You'll see them come up from time to time, and they're done annually, and they're bid annually,
Okay.
separate from us. So then if we need a service, we're able to go there and utilize that service.
Okay, I got it.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovando? Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Resolution number 39 is a resolution approving the award of contract for technology and security camera installation upgrade to Ascend Construction Management, Inc. through MRESC state-approved co-op number 65, MCESCCPS.
I'll move it.
Second. Again, through the state co-op. This is actually you recall the last meeting, well, some of the board members weren't here. The last meeting, the board approved acquisition to some of our security camera upgrades and some areas that were identified that needed some additional cameras, which we have since purchased now. And this is the actual technology component and installation component to install those cameras now that will go in the various areas that we need them.
Cameras
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
I'm not sure it's a best practice to be having public comment only after you've voted on the resolutions. And a perfect example is tonight, I have some questions about Resolution 41, which has already been acted on, and you heard testimony from your counsel, and I would want to ask some questions about that, but of course the council is no longer here. So I would suggest that in future meetings, if you agree with me that it'd be better to do this, that you include public comment before any votes are taken, so that you can have the benefit of whatever members of the public have to say before you cast votes. And I would ask that you please make that change for your next meeting. I also want to ask a few procedural questions. Does the board make audio or video recordings of these meetings?
No, they do not.
No. Okay. I would suggest that.
It's not required.
Okay. I would suggest that's probably a best practice too. And do members of the public had a chance to review the resolutions? I have a packet here, but it doesn't have the actual resolutions in it. Were those ever made available to the public?
What do you mean by, I'm sorry, Chair, can you ask him what does he mean by
What do you mean public?
I mean, like these packets here, when I go to city council, I get a packet with the actual laws that are proposed, if I want to review them. But here, I have the agenda, but I don't have any actual resolutions. Were those made available today to members of the public who showed up?
So, Mr. Chair, that you actually have the summary title of the resolution. The public can always ask for copies of the resolutions once they're acted on, and they can comment on them, but we haven't, that hasn't been a practice. Again, it's at the
The
pleasure
other
of the
thing
chair.
too is, the last few years, we had so much cut by HUD, and it was becoming very expensive, because if you see some of our documents, they could be 200-300 pages sometimes it will be 60, 70 pages. So what we do now is just email to the board members, and whoever is interested, the public, they can always contact John or the Housing Authority to get the information.
Okay. But the resolutions are prepared before the meeting, like you have copies of it, right? Okay, I would suggest then that maybe if the printing costs are an obstacle, they could probably be posted on the authority's website, no?
Mr. Chair, they're not public then, they haven't been voted on, so they will not be posted on the website. But if the chair wishes to have a copy here, again, they're not action hasn't been taken on them yet, so they're not public. But if the chair wishes to have a copy here while they're considering, I see no reason why you wouldn't have a copy.
Great, so just like the city council, thank you for that, I appreciate that. My next question I'd like to ask about Resolution 37 was mentioned you're amending the plan because of changes to the Resident Assistant Demonstration Program. What are those changes?
So, Mr. Chair, HUD requires certain language to be in the annual 5-year plan. When we adopted the original plan, we did not have the language to put into the plan, but they are, there's about 9 pages of changes, which I'd be happy to make a copy of if you'd like, but they vary in range from funding to other types of regulatory changes that are required through the resident demonstration program, resident assistance demonstration program.
So it's just a compliance issue? Okay, thanks. Okay, so that doesn't include any changes about the Zebra Way project?
The RAD program? No.
No.
Okay. So while we're on the topic, I heard at the city council meeting that there is a project for Zebra Way that's going to be included in the city's 5-year HUD action plan. Can you tell me a little bit about that project, what it consists of, and where it's going to be?
We haven't seen that project yet. That's a city that comes, that would be through the city, yeah.
And isn't the land on Zebra Way owned by the Housing Authority now?
No, that land, Mr. Chair, that land is owned by United Way, I keep getting the name. Coming Home United Way Partnership, I can give you the name.
Okay. When I looked at property records, I only saw 2 things on Zebra Way, one owned by the Housing Authority and one by Hampton Club. Can you tell me, I guess this is a different parcel of land, the Housing Authority hasn't sold their land on
It's
Zebra
probably
Way?
not deeded yet. It goes, the 30-day process goes to the county, then it
Right.
comes to the city. So it's probably not deeded yet.
Oh, okay. To the two.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if Mr. Chair, I don't even know if Hampton Club owns any land. There might be some deed recording, that hasn't happened yet from time ago, but I can check on that.
Okay, but yeah, it's my understanding that the Housing Authority does own land on Zebra Way. Is that the case, or has it been sold or given to this other?
We do not own the land on Zebra Way. That is owned by, I want to say Coming Home. I can get you the name.
Yeah, Coming Home, Middlesex County.
Yes.
BCWW, something like that.
Yeah, and so when did they get a hold of that land?
That
Zebra
land-
Way has only existed for a few years, right?
Yeah, I think that land earlier this year went through a transfer.
About 6
Um,
months.
Yeah, I don't know.
And is the board aware of who originally had it, who sold it to them? Was it publicly owned?
I don't believe so, no.
So it was a private entity owns land on Zebra Way?
Well, there was no Zebra Way before.
Right.
So I don't believe it was publicly owned, no.
Okay, but now it's owned by Coming Home United, Bergen County United Way,
I think it's Bergen County.
but we don't know who owned it before them, where they got it from.
I'm not familiar.
We don't know.
No.
Okay, we'll get to it. So I
You might be able to go to the county and.
right, exactly, I'll go to the fourth floor of the county. Okay, the last resolution was 41. I wanted to know, it was said that there's one condition that has not been met, the condition for the redeveloper to pay all the costs associated. It was said that there's an outstanding balance. Does anybody know what that balance is, how much money is still, the redeveloper still owes?
Yeah, it's actually for the legal fees for completing the actual transaction for the certification. So it would be whatever the fees were for the certification, which I believe Willets has just completed that. So it's always contingent on them paying that last bill for the completion of the document.
Relatively small.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it's not, yeah, it's legal fees.
Okay, and can you tell me what has been done to verify that that building has the appropriate amount of affordable units in it? I believe 20% was what was promised.
That, Mr. Chair, that would all be done as part of the closeout process, so the certification wouldn't be issued until that's confirmed.
So if somebody would certify to that,
Correct.
the developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it have used HMFA financing?
It was an 80-20.
Procedural question, I know the vice chair is not here. How can we be sure that he accepts the nomination to be the vice chair? Does he know he's the vice chair?
No.
He's free to reject that in the next meeting if he wishes.
Okay, but it's okay to give him that job even without him being here?
Yes.
I want to ask about some of the violent crime that's been going on in the nearby neighborhoods. What is the Housing Authority doing to combat that or to limit that?
Well, he could go into detail, but we've been working with the local police, New Brunswick
Yeah,
police.
correct. So law enforcement obviously enforces the law, and we work closely with the police, the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. Anytime there's an act or violent act either near or on our property, and we continue to do that whenever there is. I believe the security system and the lighting components that we have in place were very helpful in the last couple of issues we've had. And I think the expansion of those that the board approved tonight will help increase security on the property and allow the law enforcement people to do their jobs should something happen.
Understood, thank you. So I had the pleasure of attending National Night Out in August. It was on the whole a good event. I'm a supporter of that type of community outreach, and I did appreciate the hospitality of the Housing Authority and using this room to host it and everything. But I was a little concerned that unlike other National Night Out events that I've been to,
Where?
in New Brunswick.
Okay.
The city of New Brunswick. I've been going for years to different ones. This was the only one where I really saw that the folks in the caravan who came to visit the police and officials were largely separated from the community that had come out to the event because of a sit-down dinner in this room that was hosted. And I just wanted to give some constructive feedback that I think that these the law enforcement and the officials who come only really get to spend 10 to 20 to 30 minutes at each stop they're at. And it's really important that time be maximized interacting with the community. And what I noticed here was that within just a couple of minutes, all the police who had showed up and the officials were sort of told to come in here, and other people were kept out of here and told that they couldn't eat yet, and the police and the officials got the first meal and spent 15 or 20 minutes in here, while the people who had come to engage with them really didn't get that chance.
Chair, can I answer that one? This has been going on for several years, this National Night Out. The key to National Night Out is knowing these police officers. And basically, this community knows these police officers and accept them. Same time, don't take a good event. This has been the way it's been done. This has been the way that it's been constructed, and it's a thing to do. The residents here know that they're coming. They make room for those folks to come in and have food. Now, the residents as well, they come in and they sit and eat, and then they make room for those folks that are coming. So that's the part you don't see. But it is a nice cohesiveness, great event, always has been, and it will continue.
And then I didn't attend this year, I was somewhere else, but every year that I've attended, the mayor as well as the cops mingle with the community, and they spend half an hour, 45 minutes before that. I think we're usually the last stop, if I'm not mistaken.
Most cases.
Mr. Chair, we're one of the last
Yeah.
ones.
Okay.
So, but it's a good suggestion.
Just some feedback that, it'd be better to have more mingling with the public. And I did want to say, I heard somebody from the Housing Authority speak up and say that, you might notice that some of the people that were here last year aren't here this year because, they were misbehaving or something. There was a warning that, if you have a visitor who's involved in any type of illegal activity, it's one strike, you're out, was the message that was delivered to the folks who came to this event, which I thought was also a little off-putting because the folks who come to this type of event are not the problems or the troublemakers. And I just wanted to ask what policies the board or this authority has as far as criminal activity and folks, whether folks are allowed to live here if they have criminal records or
The way that it's been constructed, and it's the thing to do. The residents here know that they're coming. They make room for those folks to come in and have food. Now, the residents as well, they come in and they sit and eat, and then they make room for those folks that are coming. So that's the part you don't see. But it is a nice, cohesive, great event, always has been, and it will continue.
And then I did not attend this year, I was somewhere else, but every year that I've attended, the mayor as well as the cops mingle with the community, and they spend half an hour, 45 minutes before that. I think we're usually the last stop, if I'm not mistaken.
Most cases.
Mr. Chair, you're one of the last.
Yes.
Okay, well, just some feedback that, it'd be better to have more mingling with the public. And I did want to say, I heard somebody from the Housing Authority speak up and say that, you might notice that some of the people that were here last year aren't here this year because, they were misbehaving or something. It was a warning that, if you have a visitor who's involved in any type of illegal activity, it's one strike, you're out, was the message that was delivered to the folks who came to this event, which I thought was also a little off-putting because the folks who come to this type of event are not the problems or the troublemakers. And I just wanted to ask what policies the board or this authority has as far as criminal activity and folks, whether folks are allowed to live here if they have criminal records or whether they're allowed to be on the property or what the rules are.
Commissioner Jones, do you want to go and then I can find the legal?
Go ahead.
The one strike around policy is mandated by the federal government. It was enforced and enacted by President Clinton. And the idea is that anyone who has criminal activity in their home is not permitted to live in public housing, because people that live in public housing shouldn't have to tolerate crime any more than anyone else in any neighborhood has to tolerate crime. And the reason that's told to everybody is not necessarily in any way to threaten anybody, it's to assure them that they'll be safe in public housing, and that if a neighbor or anyone else is engaging in criminal activity, that we'll address that immediately. So it's for the residents' sake.
Okay, and just in terms of eligibility, even if, let's say you've turned your life around, you've paid your debt to society, you've gotten out you paid your debt, are you allowed to live in the community that the New Brunswick Housing Authority runs? Or are there certain factors that disqualify you from ever living in public housing?
It's all mandated by federal law. We don't have discretion, and there's a structure depending on the gravity of the crime and the time since it was committed that will determine the eligibility. Certain crimes are per se permanent offenses, others are not.
Okay. I wanted to ask about policies related to board members' attendance at meetings. Obviously, there was someone who had not been attending for a long time, and that person is no longer on the board. I wanted to ask, is there any mechanism for the other board members to make a change if someone is repeatedly not showing up at the meetings? Is there, I think that would be a best practice to have, a policy like that.
The appointment process is controlled by state law, by the appointing authority, and the board does not have the power to remove or appoint. Only the appointing body does. If someone is habitually failing to show up, we will notify the appointing body of the situation.
So in this case, where someone had not shown up for more than a year, when was the appointing authority notified about that? Ms. Brand, former Commissioner Brand.
I don't believe there was an actual appointment. I don't know if she did show up for a year. Was it a year? I'm not aware. You're saying it was a year?
According to the minutes, it was more than a year.
Yeah, I believe she was ill. So I don't think that case that there would have been a request to have her removed. So
I don't see why not. I mean,
Somebody is sick.
they're unable to perform the job. No, it's nothing personal, no offense, but you should tell the city council to find somebody new. I mean, that makes sense. You should have that feet.
That's the judgment of the board. That's the judgment of the board.
Okay, so
When
it's
member
primarily
serves for honorably for some time, and an illness prevents them, and it's personal events from showing up, it's up to the board whether to report it. It's up to the appointing authority whether to take action.
Okay, but in this case, the board chose not to report.
We're not going to get into the details because if we're dealing with someone's illness, that's not appropriate for the record.
Okay, but so your attorney articulated some type of policy where you're going to notify the appointing authority if people aren't showing up repeatedly. Is that a policy that's written? Is there a time frame on it?
There's nothing in writing that. It's the discretion.
Okay, so it's totally discretionary. Okay, well, just my suggestion that if
I think we have,
There's nothing in state law.
we have a 5 minute intermission for questions, and I'll give you about, 10 to 15 minutes? Yes, so I'll give you one more chance to ask the last question.
Oh, okay, I was not made aware of the 5 minute limit, so forgive me, I just have a few more, I'll be done quickly. So the authority's website was down for a few days, what was the cause of that? Was it hacked, or was it a technical failure?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we don't know. We reported it, and we're still waiting to hear back, but I'm very glad to report that our website was brought back up and is in complete view now, and has been since that 72-hour period that it was down. And I want to thank Mr. Cradwell for sending me an email about it. He did notify me, which actually we got a notice right after from the webmaster too that it was down.
Thank you, my pleasure. Can you tell me if any employees at the authority have take-home vehicles?
Mr. Chair, we do have employees that have assigned vehicles for emergency response, and they are assigned directly to them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if he needs to know those questions, he should sit down with John and go over that information.
Anything we just to do.
That's the day-to-day.
The day-to-day,
We have to
you should do that.
sit with John.
Okay, I'll be quick. The last question. So there were subpoenas. I don't know. I'm asking. Has the authority received subpoenas?
That's a legal matter. What are you referring to?
I'm just asking. Has the housing authority been served with any subpoenas?
We're not going to answer that. That's a legal matter. That's for closed sessions with attorney-client privilege.
Fair enough. I don't see a closed session on the agenda, but I figured I'd ask if I did hear that.
The board's not discussing, doesn't have a closed session tonight.
Okay, and is it true that the housing authority has hired a relative against the board member, Mr. Jones?
No.
You're going to make a motion.
Did the housing authority
I make a
hire
motion.
Mr. Jones, your relative, his nephew? Did the housing authority make a decision to hire
Talk to Mr.
Mr. Jones' nephew?
I'm a member of the public, I'm the only member of the public who
No,
doesn't
not,
come out.
that's the day-to-day business of the authority.
So has your nephew been hired, sir, by this authority?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. That's the day-to-day, Charlie, and you know it.
Roll call? Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson? Commissioner Armando? Yes. Mr. Chair? Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Armando, I did hear back about the training, you're all set. Okay, and I'll send you an email with all the confirmation.
John,
Yes, I do 6 months, so I can.